This is the Heart of LAFC podcast, episode 117.
The City of Angels is black and gold. You are listening to the Heart of LAFC podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Jerry Jimenez and Joseph Zacher.
What is up? Welcome to the Heart of LAFC podcast. My name is Jerry Jimenez, your host, your friend, your insider into the Los Angeles Football Club. Thank you for joining Mr. Joseph and I for episode 117 of the Heart of LAFC. Mr. Joseph Zacher. How are you, sir?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Getting ready for another season.
I know, we're pretty much there.
Moving on.
And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, actually. There's a ton that we need to be covering. I'm going to move my mic a little bit so people can see me. If you're listening, thank you for listening. You can also check us out. We are live right now on YouTube. Usually we're going to be Mondays or Tuesdays. It depends on our schedule. I've been dealing with a sickly baby. Actually, my wife has, but also kind of, just trying to help out a little bit at home. Babies be getting sick right and left. Joseph, I heard you even found out that it's been going on in San Diego. There's something going on in the air.
Minor plague, Yeah, it's tough.
It's
stomach bugs going around everywhere.
It's been hard. But here we are, man. I have my coffee. I'm ready to go.
Dude, I'm ready. Iced coffee at the ready, folks.
Cheers.
Let's do this. Yep, cheers.
So we're going to be talking about quite a few things today. I think we mentioned it last show, and we are definitely going to have a lot to talk about while we are, in the technically postseason. Joseph calls it preseason. I would agree with him. I think this is preseason. We're pretty much in 2020 mode now because the Cup winner for 2019 has already been decided, and therefore we move on. And there's a lot to talk about being, a couple of drafts coming up. What does that mean, Joseph? Players coming in and out?
Players coming and going. There will be movement. Guarantee you there'll be movement by next week.
Yeah.
So decisions have to be made. Hard decisions have to be made. Players have to be left unprotected. Some with contracts are going to get bona fide offers. Others might not. Some will get waived in this next month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And by the beginning of December, players will end up with new teams. We'll be looking at new players possibly. The rumors are going to start kicking in. There's no real time to waste because we all know that the season is going to start a bit earlier next year and very early for us because we have Champions League, which amazing announcements in December for that. So it's really going to be nonstop for us. We also have something cool. I think we're getting a new home kit next year. So
that's right. A new black jersey.
That are going to be leaking pretty soon, I'm sure.
Black jersey. That's right.
A new black jersey. So, it never ends. This is football. It's a year-round thing. Get used to it. Enjoy it. I enjoy Rumorville. I enjoy silly season, where they think we're getting, like De Rossi out of nowhere and stuff like that. And I think of last year's crazy rumors where there's going to be more again. And you can only imagine, knowing that we're going into the CCL, that we're going to have to bolster the roster. It can't stand pat. That never works. So, eyes and ears, folks. You guys are the lead on this rumor mill. Most of you guys will probably see it before us, the way it goes these days. It's we have a lot of dedicated supporters, dedicated fans, people that are really interested in this club and are mining every source of media to find out what's happening with our club, which is a beautiful thing. And so, can't wait to see the rumors. Can't wait to jump in on these. And let's bring it. 2020 season, as far as I'm concerned, is upon us.
Yes, I'm excited for that new jersey. I think there's all this news that's coming up is going to be exciting. Everything around LAFC is always exciting, man, and we're always going to have a lot of things to do. And maybe, just maybe, we may put some other maybe a live show together that we've been talking about. And I don't make promises because I don't have anything concrete, but maybe, possibly, if you guys want it, we'll make it happen. Like Bummer, yes, I know I hate to be that guy. But unfortunately, our 2020 jersey is not going to have a star above it. But hey, maybe we go for the star in 2020. So if you guys haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you check out the MVP podcast, the Max and Vince podcast, where they interview Mr. John Thornton recently, and he kind of talked about the state of the club. And it's very, very exciting, very interesting to listen to kind of the mentality coming into this, we'll call it preseason, right? And so definitely check that out if you haven't already. And also there's some rumors. We did talk about one rumor in the last show. I'm not going to talk about it in this show. We're not going to touch on it because it's going to be a way to get you to go and listen to the other episode, which was episode 116. We did have a rumor there. So.
Yeah, we did.
Joseph.
Yeah.
What are we going to be talking about then, man? Well, today?
Oh, well, there's a million different things. I saw something. This is kind of cool. I didn't even bring it up in our notes, but I just saw it and went, hey, that's awesome. You see a new game ball for next year?
Yeah.
Dude.
It's a little bit of a throwback.
Yeah.
Some touches of a throwback ball from the early years of MLS.
Season 96, when we actually had a 12-panel ball.
That's right.
Matching the EPL of the era, the Ultimax. And, dude, I will tell you, that thing launched back in the day.
Oh,
I enjoyed using that thing. Yeah, that ball was cool. Let's hope this new Nativo 25 for our 25th season. Dude, MLS is 25. Is that crazy or what?
That's crazy. So 2020, that's right.
Yeah, it's going to be the 25th season for MLS.
Was it this?
Dude, it's on the ball. It says
25th.
XXV.
That's right. That's
Season
right.
25.
It's really cool. Yeah, the MLS Nativo, if you haven't seen that ball, it's actually beautiful. Go check it out.
It is.
LAFC.com. It's the latest news article is on there, and then there's pictures of it. Go and check it out. Actually, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's up with everybody in the chat room right now? I see y'all. Everybody waking up. Everybody awake. This is the fun part about doing these live shows is we get to talk to some of you guys live. And so if you're not live, try to make it to one of these. There's currently about 15 people in here. Not too many of you. Sometimes we have Tony. Sometimes we have 30. But today I see Johnny. I see Leo in here. I see Ox is in here. I see Brendan. Good day. How's it going? I see a few other people in here. So make sure you you come hang out with us. But today let's get into the kind of the body of what we're going to be talking about today, which is some of roster mechanism calendar and what's going to be happening as far as drafts and some movement of players. Guess what? A lot of people don't know this, but actually, once the cup was done, the trade window opened at 10 p.m. on the 11th is what ended up happening. So just to kind of go through here some information, it says Major League Soccer has announced the dates and updated details for the 2019 postseason. We'll call it 2020 preseason roster mechanisms. Yeah. As current MLS clubs and MLS expansion clubs alike make crucial decisions about their 2020 roster. Something very important to remember that there's two teams joining for the 2020 season. Those are, Joseph?
Ooh, here we go. So we've got Inter Miami and Nashville.
Nashville SC. Already making moves, by the way. We'll talk about those in a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of dig it. Nashville, their logo's different, I got to say. I got the sound waves coming off of it, so it's kind of the Nashville sound, Yeah. So that's kind of cool. But they're the first one to actually make, like, a hard play, like improving their roster immediately and spending money to do so, which came out as well, according to a certain source from the LA Times. So, yeah. So, some moves happened today, guys, since the trade window is now open, and I believe it closes in, of all things, 2 hours. If I see that right. Yeah, so as we're speaking now, midnight's approaching, and the trade window will already be closed. So it's open for the 11th and 12th, and then that's it. Rosters lock in again. So we might hear some news tomorrow about some deals. Sometimes it takes a while to see the release because the teams, in this case, are responsible for the releases, not the league, when it comes to these trades.
Oh, actually, as I'm looking at it, I made a mistake. So the trade window closes and blackout period begins at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday. If you're listening to this on the pod, you're probably listening on Wednesday. So 5 p.m. Pacific time is when that trade window closes and the blackout period begins. Yeah, so the trade window is open between the 11th and 12th and goes on to the 13th, it looks like. So
carries into it. Okay,
It says following a 10-week roster freeze, MLS clubs will have the opportunity to participate in a 2.5-day trade window that opens on November 11th at 10 p.m. Pacific time, the day after the 2019 MLS Cup. And it closes on November 13th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're listening on Wednesday the 13th, 5 p.m. Pacific time is when that trade window closes. There may be a few more moves, so keep an eye out on that if you're listening early in the morning or if you're listening actually live right now. Definitely keep your eye on that until 5 p.m. There is some moves that could happen. The expanded window this season provides MLS clubs an additional 2 days to complete transactions prior to a blackout period, whereby clubs may no longer make roster moves in anticipation of the 2019 MLS expansion draft. So this is just kind of in preparation for the expansion draft, right? It gives the clubs an opportunity to make some moves for those 2.5 days that started on the 11th. On November 19th, by the way, coming up here shortly in the next week, the expansion draft will be happening, and it is going to air live on MLSsoccer.com, so you want to stick around for that. That's going to be a fun one because we are, I can almost promise you, we will be losing one player. That's just
kind of a given.
It's kind of a given. Beginning at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and that consists of Inter Miami CF. By the way, that's a cool choice that they made. Inter Miami Club Football, right? Going with the Spanish for a little Latino flavor for the Latin community in Miami. And Nashville SC, they will select 5 players each. That's 10 players total that will be leaving an existing team roster and moving into either Miami or Nashville. So 5 and 5. All right. Keep in mind, each one is from the eligible players list. What does that mean? It means that the clubs are actually allowed to protect certain players. So those players that they choose not to protect, those will go ahead and be eligible. And I believe we talked about it last time, right? So let me keep reading through this because I see here it gives us the number. So MLS today confirmed the full list of players eligible for selection in the 2019 MLS expansion draft will be released on the 16th. Ooh, that's another one to look out for. That is coming up really quickly. That is actually going to be in 3 days. 3 days from when you're listening. So 4 days from right now, as we're recording, 3 days from Wednesday, right? Which
Saturday
is Saturday
folks.
morning at 7 a.m.
Get up for your cereal. You're gonna find out about who's out, who's listed to go out.
Who's listed to go out? Who is on the list of players that could possibly be leaving our club? I think we kind of went over that as well last time, so go and check that out. We might dive into it a little bit today, Joseph. I think I kind of want to touch on it a little bit, and maybe listen to what our listeners have to say. We'll give them a little bit of a platform as well. But I think for the most part, you and I agreed about our eligible and protected list, I think.
Yeah, we ran through it for sure. I mean, we're not 100% certain who's out of contract, who can get their option declined. We don't know that yet. So that makes it a little bit interesting. Interesting is a lot of the options. Well, the options don't happen until the 21st. So there could be players that we leave open in the draft that we weren't going to sign anyway. That their option was going to get declined anyway, which is interesting. Because I know the only name I heard of so far is Miller, who's been in negotiations. So that's been about it. I haven't heard any other noise for right now.
Do you want to kind of talk about Miller? I think it's been publicized now that he has asked for a little bit of a raise, and it doesn't look like LAFC is willing to do that. They're still in negotiations, but as of right now, it looks like LAFC is kind of saying, you know what, we might be looking at other options. But it's not set. Again, these are rumors that are going around. I've heard in multiple places, so don't quote me on any of that because nothing is certain.
Yeah, you got to figure, guys, knowing that the CBA is coming down the line here, I'm not sure. I'm sure that might have some effect as to any major signings that we're going to make.
Yeah.
Also, the one rumor that did come out earlier was about a goalkeeper, so that kind of signals things a bit too, if you're going to read the tea leaves.
A little bit.
Also, you got to realize Miller's getting paid less than Cisniega, which has to be an interesting vibe right there. So, I mean, you expect his agent to be pushing for better for him, and you expect the club to play hardball until the draft is all said and done. Like, at least that. If you look at last year and options getting decline in players moving, those didn't happen until about the November 28th of last year. That's when Phil Harbour got his option declined, and this was about the 28th of last year that we started really hearing motion involving contract extensions. So you look that up, but it was about the 28th of last year that we started seeing stuff like that. Yeah. This year it's pushed up a little bit. I guess options are on the 21st. Waivers and free agency is the 25th. So by the 21st, we should be hearing some news regarding that, like concrete stuff, because that's when the exercising of options occurs. So for us, it's interesting. November 16th to me is the big one, because that's when we find out who's unprotected. We might see something from Miami and Nashville, because really, honestly, I think that trade window is more for them than anybody else. Mm-hmm. I don't think other teams are going to bother making moves right now until things are a little more solidified, knowing about the contracts. And I don't expect much until after the draft, unless some crazy move is made so somebody gets protected during the draft. So you never know on these sorts of things. But yeah, it seems pretty quiet so far this year. It does. In terms of Inter, I know they picked up a goalkeeper from Cal Berkeley, right? You know about that one?
Yeah. Yes, they did. Do you want to talk about him?
Yeah, what do you got on him? Do you have probably more than me on this kid? But,
Drake Calendar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I have a little bit of a throat issue here. He's 22. He's currently playing soccer at UC Berkeley. He's made 52 appearances and kept 15 clean sheets during his time with the school. He was invited to the U.S. U23s men's national team in September. So, it's a good get for them. Calendar did join the Quakes Academy in 2013. So he was signed as a 14-year-old. San Jose signed a 14-year-old goalkeeper in Emmanuel Ochoa to a homegrown contract on Monday. And so I think that's where they were allowed to make that move, or they just went ahead and made that move with Drake Calendar. And so he was a homegrown again for the San Jose Earthquakes, made a move to enter Miami. They're making moves. They had a couple of other very young. They're going for the same. I think it's that recipe, right? The same recipe as Atlanta United, the same recipe as LAFC. Getting some not very known but experienced young players that have the potential of maybe being worth more and becoming an asset to some other club in the future, and they want to basically get some worth out of these players. I think that's kind of the new recipe for teams, and Drake Calendar definitely fits that, along with other members for Inter Miami so far. They haven't announced any senior people that I'm aware of as far as Inter Miami, but Nashville SC has. Nashville has made some moves there.
They went with some vets, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
It looks like they got Dave Romney from the Galaxy. Apparently a $225,000 deal with a $50,000 option depending on performances.
Wow.
And then old man Dax McCarty. So McCarty, again, if you're going to try to control things in the mid, he's probably a good guy to bring in. He's not the youngest in the game, but if you're looking, let's say that's their Phil Harbour, right? Like we got Phil Harbour, they got McCarty. I mean, that's kind of that vibe. Is you need somebody with experience in the mid.
I think he's a locker room guy too.
Yeah,
I think he's very much that senior presence that a club needs, the experience that will, help those young minds through to hopefully get over certain humps that they may not have ever experienced, and they can. It's a shoulder for them to lean on. The youth. So yeah, I feel like Dax McCarthy is a great player. Regardless, he is a little bit on the older side, but he's a journeyman. He's an MLS journeyman. We know that already. He's been through a few teams. Hasn't quite worked out with a lot of them. I think he has also a very defined personality as well, and so maybe it doesn't mesh necessarily with front offices, with the soccer ops people of the clubs, but as far as the locker room goes, I think he's a great get for Nashville.
Yeah, I think they made the right move with him because he kind of has that player coach vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important. He's this guy that's always marketable for other teams. They has a quality that everybody wants, and a price tag that other teams are willing to move him on. Like, we'll let him go. He cost us a bit. And so he's kind of in this weird situation where he gets moved a lot. So that's the Dax effect. So now he's got this team. We'll see what he does with them. You can't make too much into it until we see who gets drafted as to where these guys are really going, what direction they're really taking, to really see where they're at. Are they going to take a Cincinnati, Minnesota option, or are they going to go guns blazing like Atlanta and LAFC?
There you go.
Honestly, I think it could be 1-1, right? I think Miami could be the show team, and Nashville could be the blue collar. We'll see. We'll see.
So a couple of things that we need to jump into here, because I really want to get a little bit more in depth with what's happening with the expansion draft. Now, these are players that have moved because of the transfer windows, because there's an ability to do that. But until the 5 p.m. marker, these moves will continue to happen, and then it's going to be a complete stop, because in preparation for the expansion draft, on the 14th, on Thursday, November 14th, the clubs need to notify the league office in writing of the players who have been extended a bona fide offer, and then all roster decisions will be publicized by each club. So if there's any bona fide offers from any of the clubs, including LAFC, the club will be posting about it. On the 14th, the league needs to be notified in preparation for November 19th, which is a Tuesday, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. live on MLSsoccer.com. Inter Miami and Nashville SC will select up to 5 players. And I want to jump into a little bit of that and get into detail, because some people may not remember or may not be aware of how the expansion draft works. And so I want to get into that a little bit. Joseph, 2017 MLS expansion draft, who took part in that in 2017?
Oh, let me pull up the names, actually, because we're looking at it right here. Let me look at the history of drafts. This is loading up. Here we are. Not as fast as I expected this to go. All right, so last year, the 2018 expansion.
Wait. I said 2017. Who
we took place of the 2017. I'm thinking 2018. But yeah, 2017 was us. We selected 5 players, just like it's going to happen this time. Our number 1 pick was Tyler Miller. Number 2, Latif Blessing. Number 3, Marco Orena. 4th one, Yuka Raitala. Number 5, Raheem Edwards.
These were all unprotected players.
Yes.
In the 2017 MLS expansion draft. I can tell you right now, Latif Blessing is going to be protected. There's no way that he's not going to be protected. And if he's unprotected, I don't know what we're doing, guys.
Shocker. It would be an absolute shocker.
Which
is wild. It's wild to look at what this list was to what we have now.
Yeah, so
in only 2 years.
Juka Raitala, Raheem Edwards were a straight swap for none other than MLS Cup not winner.
Not winner, yeah.
Laurent Simon. So we traded Juka Raitala, who I believe is with Montreal.
Montreal, yep.
And Raheem Edwards, who was also sent to Montreal, but then moved to another team, who I don't remember right now. So Marco Orena, Latif Blessing, Tyler Miller, all 3 of them were kept in place, right? And yeah, and so very important expansion draft. You get some pretty darn good players, because now let's do the 2018, Joseph. Cincinnati, okay, the only team that came in 2018. We know how well that went for them, but let's list some of those players though.
Darren Maddox,
great player.
Kind of a jerk.
He's a great player, Joseph. He's a great player, regardless of how we feel about him.
Still a jerk. He's a really good jerk. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Key Kamara.
A great player.
Amazing. Yeah. Good journeyman who's not even with them anymore. So there's that. Roland Lama.
Great
Eric
player.
Alexander. And Hassam Idam.
All great players that were unprotected. So this is exciting, because we're looking at it obviously from the LAFC perspective. As a supporter of LAFC, as a fan of LAFC, covering LAFC, we're worried about who we're going to lose. But here's the thing. There's going to be other teams, specifically 9 other teams that are going to lose players. I'm telling you right now, we're going to lose a player. All right? I just want you guys to get yourself into that mentality. If we don't lose a player, there was some sort of
back channel.
There was some sort of like alleyway deal that happened that LAFC was like, please don't take any of our players, Miami and Nashville. Here's some
Future considerations.
here's
Yeah.
some
I don't think that's quite like
here's some Chicos tacos. I
permitted,
don't know.
but it's got to be going on, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I
I'd
mean,
be shocked, dude. I'd be shocked. So, yeah, I would be really surprised. 2016 draft is probably your best example of what it might look like, since that was a 2-team draft with
yes,
Atlanta United and
exactly.
Minnesota United.
Dude,
which was
Atlanta
interesting.
and Minnesota. Atlanta and
Yeah,
Minnesota.
right.
Yeah, came in at the same time.
That's your real example of what can happen, like in different mindsets. So Atlanta United got Danny Toya, Zach Lloyd, Clint Irwin, Mickey Ambrose, and Alec Kahn. Minnesota got Chris Duvall, Colin Warner, Mohamed Saeed, Jeff Antonella, and Femi Hollinger Janssen. Dude, are any of those guys there anymore?
No.
No. How crazy
None
is
of them.
that? So how much did that work out?
Atenilla is with Portland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danny Toya, I know I've heard that name before. He's not with Atlanta for sure. So
No,
actually,
he's
none
gone.
of these. I don't think any of
Clint
them.
Irwin's gone, right? He's not there.
Dude, that's crazy. So
So-
in 2015, there was no expansion draft because no teams came in. But in 2014, I see a name on here that I'm surprised only in 2014 was unprotected, and that's Heath Pierce. Isn't that crazy? Oh, and Tommy
Yeah.
McNamara with New York City FC, and he's still actually no, I'm sorry, he went to Houston, but he
Yeah,
was
Houston,
with
yeah.
New York City for a while. So 2014 again. The only reason we're giving you these names and saying this is so that you guys understand that the expansion draft is actually one that affects 10 clubs, 12 clubs, right? The 10 that lose a player and the 2 that gain those players.
Right.
100%. So we are going to get an idea, a really good idea of how Inter Miami and how Nashville SC plan on building their roster on the 19th. That's what I'm trying to get at. On the 19th at 2 p.m., starting at 2 p.m., we're going to get a really good idea of how these clubs plan to proceed with the building of their roster, which is huge for an expansion club. Am I right, Joseph?
Yeah, and I can't help but to think that if you've seen how it went the last few years, Cincinnati, they didn't wheel and deal the way we wheeled and dealed, and it didn't work out too great for them. We wheeled and dealed our last 2 picks, and it worked out really well for us.
Really well.
Okay, so if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking now with 2 teams having to deal with the same pool of players, which does limit talent, you could say, why wouldn't they wheel and deal?
Yeah.
Like, I would not be shocked to see some crazy stuff come down on that day, which is cool. It could be us involved as well. If there's some veteran keeper that we want to bring in to bolster our roster, that we might play ball with these guys, especially because we've got, on the left side, we've got a lot of availability. So, the right side, we might be a little thin. So we might make a deal.
Maybe. So again, key dates. The expansion draft itself happens on Tuesday. However, the list of players that are eligible for selection will be released on the 14th, Friday, November 14th, before 5 p.m. is when those lists will be released. And each club will release the eligible players for selection.
Yeah.
Now, the process. Club drafting authority. Each participating club, which is Miami and Nashville, must designate one representative to make the selection. So they're going to have somebody in their club make those selections public, okay? There's going to be 5 rounds. Inter Miami and Nashville can select up to 5 players from the eligible pool, and they can only claim a single player from any one club. What does that mean? We can only lose 1 player. 1. And then that's it. We are taken off of the board. No more players can be selected by the either of the clubs from LAFC. The selection clock permitted 3 minutes for each selection, so they are given a little bit of time to maybe do some dealing and wheeling, like you said. There's no timeouts. What that means is 3 minutes, and that's it. If you haven't figured something out by then, you're stuck. So they're going to be on the phone during those 3 minutes trying to make moves at each time. Here's the thing, is they go into this pretty prepared. These calls are already happening, right?
Oh, dude. Yeah, the marker board is in place.
Yeah.
I remember our team in the war room at the Experience Center where, Nobody was allowed in the war room or anywhere near that war room during that day. We were all outside, and you knew something was going down, and we kind of got an inkling on the Simon thing. And
Yeah. By the way, thank you for bringing that up. No trades permitted during the draft. So
No.
those things happen after or before.
after, yeah. So you play, you pick the
Sometimes
player,
before.
and then, yeah, I remember we got our player. Then there was this weird delay afterward, like it's not done yet, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I remember getting all these text messages during that time, and it was just like so exciting. And so what ended up happening, and this has been publicly put out there by the club, the move for Raheem Edwards and for Juka Raitala for Laurent Simon was put together beforehand. He said, okay, we're going to pick these two, and we're going to trade you straight swap for Laurent Simon. Deal? Deal. And what did they do? They picked those two players. Right? Then they made the trade afterwards. So during the actual draft, you can't make any trades. All right? Here's some key parameters for you guys that you need to keep in mind for this. General allocation money. So Inter Miami and Nashville SC will receive an additional sum of allocation money as compensation for 5 exempt teams, protected homegrown players, and the one additional protected player per team in the MLS expansion draft. For a club that has a player claimed for their unprotected roster, that team will receive $50,000 in general allocation money for the selection. What does that mean?
Bad.
So once they take a player from us, we get $50,000 in general allocation money for that in replacement for it.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. That's good. That's money that we can use. And then protected and unprotected player-related rules. The following 5 teams who had players selected by FC Cincinnati during the 2019 MLS expansion draft are exempt from the 2019 expansion draft. Oh, here's a little something. So DC United, Vancouver Whitecaps, FC Dallas, Houston Dynamo, and the Red Bulls cannot lose any players during this expansion draft.
Yeah, let's be honest. DC United, Vancouver Whitecaps, and FC Dallas and Houston Dynamo really can't afford to lose anybody at this time.
Absolutely.
They're all rebuilding. Red Bulls ended their season earlier than expected, so it's good for them. But the other teams, they got some replacements they need to make.
Yeah, the other 19 returning clubs that competed during the 2019 season can protect 12 players between their senior, supplemental, and reserve roster. So 12 players can be protected. Everybody else is pretty much on the cutting board. If the player's contract expires at the end of 2019, he will still be considered part of the club's roster. If a club protects a player, it is not obligated to exercise the player's option. This is really important to know as well. All right. It may be renegotiated. It may renegotiate a new contract with the player as in previous years, subject to the CBA. All right. Which is what, Joseph? The CBA.
Collective bargaining agreement, which expires soon.
Yep.
Yes.
The option decline free agents and the out-of-contract free agents are part of the expansion draft and are not automatically protected. Players on the club's supplemental roster, other than the Generation Adidas players who have not been graduated at the end of the 2019 season, ages 25 and under are eligible. Generation Adidas players who have not been graduated at the end of the 2000 MLS season on a club's roster at the end of the 2019 season are automatically protected. That's also good to know. Not for us, though. Everybody else. We don't have any
We
homegrown.
don't get that yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Clubs do not have to use a protected slot on them. So that's big for those that have homegrown players.
So they technically get to protect more than 12.
More than 12, yeah. So that's the advantage of having homegrown players. Why we bring it up, hopefully soon we get some homegrown players.
Mm-hmm.
Designated players are not automatically protected. So I don't see us not protecting Carlos Vela. But
yeah, I think we're stuck protecting everybody that's a designated player at this point.
Diego Rossi and Brian Rodriguez will all be protected. That takes 3 away from the 12, leaves us with 9. Okay, so just something to keep in mind there.
Mm-hmm.
If a player has a no-trade clause in his contract, his MLS club must protect him, and he will count as one of the 12 players who may be protected. That's another interesting one. We may not know about these things. We don't know if there's a no-trade clause in Tyler Miller's contract.
What if it's in Fido's?
Oh,
we don't know.
Shoot. Yeah.
We don't know. Yeah. But Miller's contract is done right now. So, I mean, it ends this year. So he's draft eligible. So if somebody goes after him, they're going to have to sign his contract, not necessarily him, right? Because he's a free agent technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the first right for him, so that could be interesting. That could be real interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leo in the chat room said, couldn't the other team mess up a trade by taking a coveted player and baiting them?
Yeah, so you've seen this in hockey. I know the Vegas Knights were really good at it, where they were calling them ransom draft picks. And so they knew they could create chaos for certain teams. So they said, we're going to draft this guy and give him the heads up. And so basically force some people to make some deals.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't risk losing a player or getting a player picked and then sent to a rival, because you could threaten that too, right?
Yeah.
So to not take that risk, they've kind of forced you into a deal after the fact. Kind of funny the way things work out. Yeah, you could play it nasty for sure.
Yeah. So there you
Why
go.
not?
All right. Let's see here. Retired player rules. If a player retires, he will not be a part of the expansion draft. Duh. But his club will lose its right of first refusal to him should he ultimately decide to re-enter the league.
Dude, that means you could draft a retired player just for the hell of it.
Mm-hmm. International player rules. Clubs with 4 or more international players must protect at least 3 international players, excluding any automatically protected players. If a club has only 3 international players, it must protect 2. If a club has only 2 international players, it must protect 1. A club that has only 1 international player is not required to protect that player. We have a lot more internationals.
Yeah, we're covered on that one.
Yeah.
We're protecting 3 at a minimum. We know that already.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Selection of free agents. If a free agent is selected in the expansion draft, the expansion club that selected the player will gain his previous club's ability to negotiate a new contract consistent with the CBA. This is another big one because there's quite a few free agents out there. All right. And so basically what it's saying is if we get a free agent, we have the same right as their previous club. We can renegotiate their contract because they're free agents.
Yeah, some players might want that.
Yep.
They might get a better deal from the new team.
Yeah. The Players 2019 club would be treated as a new club for purposes of the free agency rules. Okay? If either Miami or Nashville select a supplemental reserve roster player, it must offer him a senior roster position, and he must remain on the senior roster as of roster compliance date. That's also big because they're going to be looking at those things. You know, Inter Miami and Nashville, if they don't want to consider a supplemental reserve roster player as a senior roster position, then they won't get that guy. So that also kind of, you know, deters them from picking that player and maybe making a different choice. Again, interesting. Really cool stuff to know there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
So,
Maximum, just real quick, let's finish it up. Maximum player loss. Once one player has been claimed from the club's unprotected roster, the club is eliminated from the expansion draft. We touched on that. So basically, 1 player per team, you can't pick anymore. And then the right to negotiate. Miami and Nashville will have the right to renegotiate a selected player's salary up or down without having to place such a player on waivers or giving his previous club a right of first refusal. So there you go. There it is. Any questions?
Right? Like, there's going to be a quiz at the end of this.
Sorry, cough there. All right.
Right. Let's see. For the first time... Yeah, there it is. All right. So, happy hunting to those involved. Best of luck to any of our players that we might be risking losing. Best of luck to those who could be selected as our protected list. I think we kind of got an idea of who those people might be, who their players might be, who we might expect. There's some debate on that, of course. But, you know, that's the thing. We have the luxury of having to fret over 14, 15 players on our roster because we're not sure which one's going to be protected. We have that luxury of knowing that there's more than 12 players on this team that are worthy of being on that 12 protected list.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to lose somebody good.
It's going to be tough.
That's guaranteed. Yeah.
It'll be tough. And, you know, for the next episode, we're going to have some more things to talk about. But at that point, I think we're going to be jumping a little bit more into when the free agency opens, which is coming up at the end of this month as well. The club deadline to exercise the options is coming up before that even. And then we also have the re-entry process as well as the end-of-year waivers, all that stuff that we're going to be talking about, how that works. And by that time, we will know who we have lost, and maybe we'll see some moves start happening there as well. But you know that this club, if you listen to that episode with MVP, you know that there's there's going to be some processes here that are going to be, or I shouldn't process, but some things that are going to be happening with the club that I think we can all expect it. They realize that there are some holes that need to be fixed. Also, please do yourself a favor. Go and check out heartoflafc.com. Our buddy Benjamin Virgen wrote a awesome article on kind of the things that went right and went wrong for 2019 and where we need to improve. That might help you, give you a little bit of an idea as to maybe what the club will be looking at doing and creating for 2020. The article is called 3 Reasons Why LAFC's 2019 Season Was Successful and Why It Wasn't. And so make sure you check it out. Again, heartoflafc.com. Shout out to Mr. Benjamin Virgen, who wrote that article and is still doing some pretty awesome stuff for us there at Heart of LAFC. So go and check that out.
Always.
Man, we're going to kind of call it a little bit early today, Joseph. Is there anything that we want to talk about before we call it a night?
Ultimately, I think at this point we're kind of in the waiting game. I think the Monday the 18th is going to be rather interesting for us because then we'll know the roster, who's available, who's not available, who we've protected. I could make my predictions ahead of time if we want to make that shot on who might not be protected. I know we talked about it in the last episode for a bit. It's hard. It's really hard.
Has anything changed? Is it worth talking about? Do you want to go through it right now?
I don't think it's changed, honestly.
We have a couple minutes we can take up on this if you want.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to get crazy and who I think might be lost in this process, who I think the biggest risks are for losing them, who could be targeted, yeah, definitely, and how hard it is to protect 12 players. Yeah, it's brutal for our squad. It really is.
It's brutal, really brutal.
Yeah, I mean, we're 3 heavy at left back. You cannot tell me we're going to protect 3 left backs.
That's true.
It's not happening. I think we'll only protect one of them. And we're pretty sure we might know who that might be, right? The new guy. There's no way.
There's no way Palacios isn't going to be protected for sure.
Yeah, I'd be crazy not to, right? To put that much into it, and this guy's sought after by Barcelona B. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the guy that gets protected, which leaves Harvey, which, dude, we love Harvey. They're, on and off the field, man, he bleeds for this club. To have him not protected hurts, but at the same time, I have to believe that he'll survive the draft. I have to believe that he's not going to get yanked. He's got his roots. I think if he's one of those players that if he does get drafted, he'll probably retire. Like, honestly, I don't think he wants to uproot anymore. So that would stink. Or we'd be forced to do a trade to get him back, something like that. El Munir, he's a risk. That's a high risk one right there, where we could lose him. I'd have to say that would be one that would be at high risk. I think Peter Lee Vessel's at high risk because for us, he's a prospect. He's the future for us, Jamaican national team. But a team like Miami might see something highly valuable in him because they know what he can do. When he plays for Jamaica, he leads, and he will be somebody for us if we get to keep him.
Absolutely. I mean, he's 21.
Yeah, he's a kid, but the upside is huge, man. That would be, if we lose him, that's kind of like how KC would feel when they lost Latif, right? Like, oh man, what could have been, Yeah. Then you have Beta Shore, who is another locker room guy, who gives it every week, who owns his side, and Blackman and him went back and forth towards the end here, but let's be honest, Beta is Beta, and wherever Beta goes, those teams win. They get production from him, and everyone improves around him. So can we keep him? Can we afford to keep him? I don't know, but he is definitely attractive for other teams. So those are the guys that stand out the most to me. Miller's another one. Numbers were good this year. Had some shaky starts. The debate is always flying with him, right? If we know that his contract is up and we haven't even exercised it or not going to exercise it, would we protect a player like that where we don't know if we're getting him back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the names that pop up to me the most as being the most risk. Of course, they're all in the back, right? But yeah. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
where I sit.
I'm trying to see if there's any other players here that I would say maybe up front, but no, you're absolutely right. And with Jordan Harvey, there was a couple of people that mentioned it. Uh, Actually, Philly from the Defenders of the Bank podcast is on our chat right now, and he mentioned that he just bought a house. Jordan Harvey bought a house.
Yeah,
He's not leaving LA,
I
so he's grown roots in LA. His wife loves it here. His daughter and the baby on the way. So yeah, I mean, I just don't see Jordan Harvey leaving either. Like you said, if he's selected, I do think he's going to be on the unprotected list. I do think that if he were to get selected, he may just choose to retire. And that's something
Yeah.
that he can tell the club and say, hey, unfortunately, I'm actually planning on retiring. So,
Yeah, I don't see it. I if he gets picked, I think it's over. I think he moves in to staff range. And he's definitely going to be on a staff somewhere. I just do. I just as a player, I don't think he's ready to uproot his family again.
yeah, actually, Brendan brought it up here in the chat. He said, if Harvey gets drafted, then retires, do you think LAFC offer him a coaching role? It's a possibility. I don't think LAFC necessarily, but somebody can.
Well, could you see him at the academy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd come back as staff.
Yeah.
Realistically, yeah, I do.
So I feel
Dude,
like
he could be in the broadcast. Like he
Yeah.
could be a part of that. So
a few of the people that you guys have to kind of, keep in mind, and I think Joseph mentioned it. It's Steven Badershaw's 32, right? And then you have Mohamed Munir's 27. He's still young, but he's
fine.
also very good. Then you have Jordan Harvey. He's 35. You have Dejan Djokovic. He's 34. Those are pretty much the older guys. Danilo Silva, 32.
And had massive injury issues.
Massive
this year.
injury issues. And then Rodolfo Zelaya is 31. So anybody that's like in the 30 mark, they're all at risk, other than maybe like you're going to say Carlos Vela, who's 30. But everybody else.
I think if they're over 30s, they're going to be left open,
Yeah.
but they're not going to get picked. Beta would be the only one I think that could get picked.
Yeah.
In the over 30 range. I do. And again, when you're 27, if we leave him open, it's kind of, I think that's the guy we lose.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So, tune in. Again, we're going to call it a night, guys. People were asking if we're going to do some after hours anytime soon. Probably not for a little bit. Okay? We're going through some stuff where we're tired.
Well, I mean, and honestly, I think after hours would be much more appropriate after the draft. Because, I mean, think about that conversation on the 19th and 20th, right? We're talking about a player leaving, and then we're talking about options being exercised on the 21st. Like, there's stuff to talk about there.
Yes.
That could require some extra time, I think.
Okay, so then possibly we'll do some after hours for you guys, okay? Since apparently you guys are asking for it and want it. So there you go. I really appreciate that, by the way. Thank you for wanting to stay this late with us because it's late. And it's Mondays and Tuesdays, and you guys, most of you have to go to work. I have to go to work. Joseph has to go to work.
I have to work, yeah.
Tomorrow in the morning.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank you for sticking around. We really appreciate you guys. Again, keep an eye out because we're going to find out who's on the unprotected list on the 14th. And then on the 19th, Tuesday the 19th, is the draft. That's where we will find out who we lose, if we lose anybody, and if there's any moves that are going to be happening there as well, any trades. And that's a possibility as well.
I expect something. I mean, we're either losing somebody or we're trading. That's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. There will be motion. I do. And there are some players that we might want to target after we see who's left open. Like, we'll let them go? Hey.
Exactly.
Like,
so once the list come out, it's like, oh, man, maybe what if we make a move for this guy? That would be perfect in this position, You never know. So
yeah.
That's it, man.
So, yeah. I know there were also conversations about whether the season was a success or not, which I find absolutely crazy.
It is crazy.
We've just seen those conversations, and that just cracks me up. It's like, what, a supporter shield's not a success? Okay, fine. Best points ever? Yeah, fine. Okay. We all know we want that prize, but it doesn't come that easy.
No.
Yeah. You got to figure other teams have taken a lot longer. Yes, I know Atlanta got one after 2 seasons, but come on, guys, that's not normal. We all know that. Yeah, I don't try to go on the trajectory of Atlanta. They have their thing, we have ours. To me, the CCL is going to be the fun, and I can't wait to have the conversation about who we get to play in the CCL when that all comes down, because I wouldn't mind a nice trip to Leon that time of year.
Yeah, that's something that's going to be exciting as well. So that's coming in December. So stay tuned for that. We're definitely going to be talking about that as well. Thank you, everybody that is in our chat room, still talking, still hanging out. I see somebody talking about, Ox talking about we need some Julius Peppers. I think they're talking about drinking here. Jaeger and Red Bull. Ew.
I don't want to die.
Headaches. They're talking about alcohol now, so we got to go. We are still drinking coffee, guys. So that's it, man. That's going to do it for us. Another episode in the books, 117 now. Thank you guys for sticking in there. We were worried we weren't going to be able to fill up 30 minutes, and here we are almost an hour in. So we're going to call it a night. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about it or something doesn't make sense, reach out on social media. We are at Heart of LAFC on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're pretty much everywhere. My personal is at Chido Jerry, CHIDOJERRY. Mr. Zacher, you want to give your Twitter handle?
At Jays_Zacher. Not the easiest one to find, right?
Yeah, Zacher, ZACHER.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. As in soccer.
Soccer.
In case you guys.
Soccer.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I know, right? My name pronounces that way. I know. I don't use it that way, but yeah.
There you go. All right. That's it. Any last parting words, Joseph?
Parting words. Yeah, I know the U.S. national team has some Nations League matches.
Oh, yeah.
Have fun with that.
That's coming up.
Bear halter out. There I am. I said it.
So much going on with that, too. Gosh. Maybe we'll talk about it if there's room later on. But, yeah, sure. I mean, check it out. The 15th, all right? That's coming up in a couple of days here. U.S. versus Canada at 4 p.m. Okay.
Good luck to Mark Anthony K.
All right. For Mr. Joseph Zacher, my name is Jerry Jimenez. You have been listening to the Heart of LAFC podcast. Stay golden.
Thank you for listening to the Heart of LAFC. Make sure to leave us a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher. Shoulder to shoulder, the black and gold is taking over.